Greetings, fellow Earthlings. I'm Jeff Goldblum. Thank you. Hey, you ever hear of Area 51? Well, it's that secret place where recovered aliens and their craft are supposedly being held by the government. Well, they say that Area 51 doesn't really exist, but they say that about Area ID4, too. And look where we are. It's Area ID4. This seemingly desolate building is actually burgeoning with activity, secret activity, that they're trying to keep from us. See, there's a whole wealth of information that, if uncovered, would reveal to us the secrets behind one of this summer's most exciting and biggest movies, Independence Day. Watch this. See what I mean? It's not going to stop us. Okay, time for some good, honest labor, huh? Okay, we're in. No civilians ever gotten this far before. Very soon we should be coming face to face with the central question in Independence Day. Are we alone?
Do you know where CGI is?
No.
I believe in the idea that there is something out there.
There's got to be other life out there. I can't imagine we're the only ones.
The size of the universe and the probability is such that there's probably something out there.
I just think it would be really arrogant of us humans to think that we are the only beings that exist in this massive universe.
I have to say, when enough people scream fire, you gotta look for smoke. What if, tomorrow morning, we were to wake up to discover enormous spaceships 15 miles wide, hovering over the 30 biggest cities of the world?
There's gonna be a lot of frightened people out there.
Yeah? I'm one of them.
Okay, here we go. When next this elevator door opens, we're going to come upon a room where some of the stars of Independence Day have been sequestered, believe it or not, forced to keep silent about their roles in the film. Let's see if maybe we can put an end to this gag order and get some of my co-stars to tell us what the movie's about. Ready? Fight the power.
This movie is about aliens coming to take over the world.
It has a diameter of over 550 kilometers and a mass roughly 1/4 the size of our moon.
What the hell is it? A meteor?
No, sir.
No, definitely not.
How do you know?
Well, sir, it's slowing down.
It's what?
There is something out there which could destroy the Earth.
Part of it is broken off into nearly 3 dozen other pieces. They should be entering our atmosphere within the next 25 minutes.
It releases 15-mile-wide ships that hover over all of the major cities around the world.
Aren't you coming, David?
No, I gotta see it.
This is a big emergency crisis situation, you know, like a building on fire, or except times 10 billion.
We have to ask you to try to stay calm, and it's important for everyone not to panic.
I play Dave Levinson. My God. I'm the one who discovers some things about when they're going to attack.
See? They're positioning themselves all over the world, using this one signal to synchronize their efforts. In approximately 6 hours, the signal's going to disappear and the countdown's going to be over. And then what? Checkmate.
I play President Thomas J. Whitmore, and in the course of events, he manages to kind of be quite a leader.
A historic and unprecedented event is occurring. The question of whether or not we are alone in the universe has been answered.
And what happens if they do become hostile? And God help us.
No, really not! Oh, God, I hope they bring back Elvis! We've got to stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
Time's up.
They destroy big cities all over the world and then threaten to destroy everybody.
All hell just breaks loose, and I run from the walls of destruction.
The plan is to rub everybody out by July 4th, so we have to mobilize.
We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive.
They run into the United States Marine Corps, namely Captain Stephen Hiller, as played by me.
You scared, man?
Nope. Something you want to add to this briefing, Captain Hiller?
No, sir. Just a little anxious to get up there and whoop E.T.'s ass, that's all.
When you get your chance, you'll all get your chance. Dismissed!
So kick the tires and light the fires. I play Jimmy Wilder. They call upon him and a whole bunch of other guys to knock out this alien spaceship.
I got you covered, Big Daddy.
In this movie is Bill Pullman and Jeff Goldblum and Randy Quaid and Judd Hirsch, and the list goes on and on and on.
Mary McDonald and Will Smith and Margaret Collin, Harry Connick Jr. and Harvey Fierstein. You know, it's got a very interesting cast.
We kind of tried in the whole movie for every part, you know, to find the perfect actor for it and try to make the whole cast very balanced.
Cut.
Roland really has pulled together a very fine group of actors for this piece. It's a top-draw cast.
In any given scene, there, you know, might be collectively 150 years of film experience.
The beginning is important that you all three kind of for a moment concentrate on that.
You have this massive cast, and when the movie starts, you don't know who's going to still be around at the end of the movie.
We wanted to have this feeling that every character is equally important, so in face of disaster, every one of them could die. For the audience, it will be a big loss.
Get him out of there!
Okay. Now we're cooking, now we're getting someplace. But to get the real information, the real story, you got to go to the source, the filmmakers, Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. Maybe you know them as the creative forces behind that movie Stargate. We're about to uncover the monumental challenges that they faced while making Independence Day. Oh, there we go. Got
They told me you'd be coming, Goldblum.
Oh, he's got that
A
wild
camera,
look
are
out
you
of your
nuts?
eye.
They
You wanna
told you
play-
not to
keep
reveal any
building this.
secrets.
All right, stand by, please. And action.
We shot over 6,000 elements to make up over 400 visual effect shots. We've had models, a pyro unit, 2 motion control units, and at various times there's been additional model units.
There's more miniatures in this movie than probably any 2 movies combined. There's cities to build, there's alien craft, alien creatures. It just runs the whole gamut.
There was also an enormous amount of on-set effects with enormous explosions and car crashes. I know in one day alone in New York we crashed 23 cars. Our film does everything from the highest tech, digitally animated, digitally composite CGI shot to little models on wires in front of photo backings, and everything in between. It goes from great exterior locations. We shot on the Bonneville Salt Flats with spectacular views where we had 170 trailers racing across the desert, to these enormous sets that we built here at the Hughes Aircraft.
She's a beaut, ain't she?
We decided to have our alien to show up and make a hell of an entrance.
There's a lot of challenges in this kind of movie, and Roland and Dean are very good at understanding what's going on, having an internal rhythm above all these scenes.
Roland and Dean, I can't separate them. They just, between the 2 of them, covered all the bases.
Roland Emmerich as a director is an incredibly rare breed in Hollywood. He has unbounding energy and loves making movies.
Can you open this window here?
I would try to make a movie which is entertaining and as diverse as possible.
There must be really a moment, where you're like...
Roland is the film. He knows everything about the plot. He knows everything about every special effect. He knows an awful lot about movie making, and he shares it with such ease.
When you're on the set, you can feel his passion and his involvement, and it's infectious.
You come to him and it's more like, does anybody hear you?
Yeah. Oh, nice. He lays the base for you of what he wants clearly enough that you can use that as a springboard to bring he and Dean's words to life.
He's very concerned with detail and is very much in command of his art.
This direction was great, but you should come a little bit closer to the window.
Roland is a notorious location scouter. He'll usually see 30 different locations before he chooses one he likes. Not only is he trying to choose something that has a very special look, because he is a very visual director, but he also has to find locations that will work with the special effects.
I saw Stargate and the type of things that they wanted to do, and this is a classic big budget Hollywood picture. You have thrills, chills, spills, and the special effects, the level of the special effects in this film, I mean, huge.
Almost every scene is kind of built to send the ball out of the park.
It's going to be quite an assault on our senses, kind of like a roller coaster, frame after frame after frame.
You won't find a film that has more on screen than this film, and that's what we're most proud of. The money spent on this movie is on the screen. You need to see it.
Okay, I think this is a good place to start to blow the cover off of some of the tricks behind Independence Day's extravaganza of special effects, which are guaranteed to make your jaw drop. Oh, models. Close shot of this, please. Get in there. Look at that. See that?
I think when you do a special effect movie, I think you should do something which, first of all, you have to go to the limits of what technology can do, and you have to create sequences that people haven't seen.
We have alien spaceships above Los Angeles and some other major cities.
So pretty.
These spaceships have a heat ray. The heat ray comes out from the middle and spreads out toward the edges of the city. We have different streets where we see this huge wall of flames coming towards us.
And when you look down the street, you want that the fire comes right at you. But fire wants to go up, especially when you do it in a miniature. So what we had to do is we had to build streets and objects upright. The street had to become pretty much a chimney for the fire.
Our miniature, it's 24 scale. It's about 8 feet wide, 20 feet long. It's hanging on a scaffolding at about a 10-degree angle. So when we have our destruction, our fire and everything start here, it will run up the street as it eats up the fuel. And our camera will be mounted about 5 feet off the set.
Very important issue is the detail of the model itself. Even if we only see it for a couple of seconds, it's always totally important to have the detail from bottom to top.
All the signs, all the telephone poles, all the street lights, parking meters. It basically has everything on it.
We really have to be careful that the best detail is directly in front of the camera.
The fireball was only one element, and then we kind of did all the interactive things.
We'll shoot a blue screen that will be air cannons and stuff, like a concussion wave hitting them, then we'll shoot debris, and then we'll do some live action stuff and some people in it.
The people are running away from the wall of destruction. Cars have been picked up in the concussion wave and been flung far forward.
All right, stand by. Pictures up, please. And let's start the smoke, please, and the wind. And rolling, please. All right, stand by. And action, action.
Right now we have 6 units shooting, and we're all shooting like the similar shots. Model Unit 1 shot the city street. Model Unit 2 shot the pyro, the fire coming through. Motion control is adding the element of the spaceship above, and then I shoot the blue screen people running in the foreground. We all always get together and talk about lighting and making sure we match everything. So it is very complicated, but if you get it right, it looks fantastic.
It's around here somewhere.
Enter security code.
Tight security. Listen, guys, you know, when it comes to blowing up the world on Independence Day, nothing's off limits. The same thing here, except for this. Just wait out here. I'll be 1 minute.
Today we are doing the explosion of the White House.
This model probably costs in excess of $50,000. I get one shot at it. There's a great many variables that go into the completion and the successful blowing of a model like this. One has to consider what the model is made out of, in this case plaster. You have to know the scale, you have to know the size of the charges that you're using, how much gas, what the camera speeds are.
Mike Joyce and his team of geniuses sat down and built this unbelievable replica of the White House.
We're building that at 12 scale, which is over 14 feet wide, and we're going to blow it up, and it'll look tremendous when it goes.
This had to be a world-class product because all the cameras that we're setting up around here are within 10 feet of this particular model. And even though it's an existing piece of architecture, there are still things that have to be artistically rendered before it even gets to the model shop. Then the model shop takes all of those blueprints like you're really building a real house, and then they have to manufacture all of that.
We put a lot of thinking into that. Everything was a mold, so every piece was built like the White House was built, out of single pieces.
The important factor is to make sure that you have a lot of information on film, so you want to make it as slow as possible.
The normal camera speed would be 24 frames per second. It's 1 second of film. We're shooting tonight with 300 frames per second. So that means when the actual explosion takes place, you're slowing it down 12 times. The whole thing looks 12 times slower in the end.
Even though you're shooting 300 frames per second, if I was to use something like dynamite, you would have maybe 2 frames of explosion and that's it. You want to blow it up in stages and you want to see the pieces and debris flying out of there. Everything will be falling in front of the camera or jetting out the sides. And all the camera crews are going to be unmanned and everybody is in a safe position.
Let's clear, please.
When you start to come down to that 10-minute mark, everybody's very concerned because, of course, there's hundreds and hundreds of hours, tens of thousands of dollars, and what we really want to do is make sure that we just don't stub our toe at the last moment. We really only want to do this once.
Roll cameras.
Roll cameras, please. Hey! Hey! And action!
everything that I expected it to be, and everything went off. We didn't have any problems. The timing was right, the debris was right, fireball was perfect, and this is what's left of it.
Okay, now, if it isn't scaled down or blown up when it comes to special effects in Independence Day, it's probably going to be CGI, computer-generated image. Want to see how that's done?
Hey.
Hey.
Blowing up the White House is something that one wouldn't want to do practically, so we figure out how to do that as a visual effect and how to creatively put it together in the computers.
If you could actually go blow up the White House, we wouldn't need to do compositing, but since we don't want to really do that, we have a model and we have all these elements.
My job on this particular shot was to add a model destroyer in the sky and a beam coming down from the ship with particles, and it strikes the top of the White House as the actual model is exploding.
There's really two distinct fields of visual effects. One is compositing, the other is CGI, computer-generated imagery. The difference between the two is compositing, you're putting the elements together, and CGI, you're actually generating elements. The same way if you were shooting an element, you're actually creating something that didn't exist before.
One of the beauties of compositing is that rather than trying to do everything in camera, trying to do everything live, where you would have to have a model, you'd have to have a spaceship to scale, you'd have to have pyro, and all of that happening at the same time, by compositing in layers, it allows us to choreograph each layer perfectly and then put them together. And it's really all about having control of each element as it goes together. The director's dreams can come true in a way that he can watch it happen on the screen.
The aliens and the F-18s engage in the largest air battle in history, and we needed to put that on the screen.
Squadron leaders, your base of maneuver.
Is the Independence Day CG department that we set up specifically for the show. Computer graphics is the 3D environment used in digital effects, and these animators are here doing all the computer graphics. We have an additional company called Vision Art that's also doing some of the graphics for us as well.
On this show, we had several sets of challenges. One of the biggest ones was the dogfight scenes. We're animating hundreds of airplanes in the air at the same time. To do that plane by plane is just a really painstaking process, takes a really long time, because you have to do not only each F-18 or each attacker, but then each attacker shoots and each F-18 fires missiles and tracers. You've got literally thousands of things to keep track of in the scene. Since we're doing this all with computers, the computers are really good at simulating all those things, so we've written programs which do nothing but simulate the dogfight scenes in a way that we have a lot of control over them. Because there's a limited amount of horsepower in the computer, we have to use primitives or these little dots to represent each of the airplanes at first. What you're seeing right now is white dots for each of the F-18s and red dots for each of the alien attackers. It's only stepping a few frames per second. It's only stepping very slowly through the dogfight, and that's so we can tweak each of the individual parameters. As soon as I get the motion the way I want it, as soon as I get the numbers the way that we want it for a particular shot, then I can go in and substitute the real airplanes for these dots.
Our representation of a solid object we call a wireframe, and how you get there basically are points in space.
You can set points here in this 3D virtual environment, and from that you can go up higher and higher and end up having a real complex model, which we call a wireframe because it looks like consisting of a lot of wire.
The beauty of the wireframe is once it's built, we can use it for any shot. You can put the F-18 flying straight towards you, and we in the computer have what's basically a virtual camera, and you can put the camera in the front of this 3D object and it looks like it's flying towards you. If you want to go to the side, you get the wings and you can show the rotation. You then need to take a real surface and basically paint it over top of this texture. And what we do is get actual pictures from all different angles, scan that into the computer, so it's then digitized, and then took that and wrapped that around these wireframes. The goal is always to be photorealistic. The director very much wanted it to look real, and so that's been our task.
You know, maybe the most thrilling aspect of the movie, besides the explosions and the fine acting and the stunts and the fine acting, is the possibility that one day soon all of us Earthlings can unite for the common good and find a way to get along. Imagine that.
What happened, Mommy?
I don't know, baby.
If there were an outside aggressor, an alien invasion, wouldn't everybody on this planet forget their petty differences and concentrate more on what binds us together, the fact that we are all one race, human? Independence Day is an attempt to express that.
I think the core theme is how different people come together in the face of a disaster.
People from completely different backgrounds all come together and, unite to preserve the human race.
You will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
We all wake up to our best selves in a way, in our humanity, in our sense of brotherhood and ability to work together.
It's been a pleasure.
Steve, you too.
We learned a lot about this in Los Angeles in the last couple of years between the fires and the riots and the earthquakes and the floods. And we saw how people really came together. And we wanted to try and show that on a global level. Disparate people from disparate backgrounds coming together in an unlikely way.
It's about human beings. It's about being a human being. It doesn't matter how great your country is or how great you might be. The bottom line is all we really are human beings.
Are you scared? Me too.
It is only the care and the courage of each individual involved that creates the possibility for further life.
And everybody gets a chance to be a hero for a little while.
You know how I'm always trying to save the planet? Here's my chance.
There's a lot of attitude in this movie, and sometimes it's fun to go see a movie where a lot of characters have a lot of attitude.
The 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Well, there you have it. Our first hand look inside Area ID4, a building that supposedly doesn't exist, which contains long-held movie-making secrets finally revealed to you, the public. Good night, my friends. Thank you. This is where they keep space. Good enough.
There have been additional unconfirmed sightings now over France, Korea, and here in the United States.
Someone or something has chosen to visit us. Officials have yet to speculate as to who these visitors might be.
Panik verbreitet sich in ganz Russland, das unter Kriegsrecht gestellt wurde.
They came from another solar system, for Pete's sake. We haven't even been to Mars.
중앙 러시아 상공에 괴물체 출현했다는 러시아 보고가 있습니다.
There's been absolutely no evidence that these phenomena are endangering anyone.
The LAPD is asking Los Angelenos not to fire their guns at the visitor spacecraft.
These are uncertain but exciting times. Be brave. Be strong.
There is no indication that we are in any danger. Let me stress that. There is no indication that we have to worry.
First of all, I think when you do a special effect movie these days, I think you should do something which, first of all, you have to go to the limits of what technology can do. Secondly, you have to create like 1 or 2 sequences that people haven't seen, where they're like totally amazed that this is possible now.
One of the things Roland has taught me from the first day I started working with him is it's not the tool, it's the craft. And we would approach every special effect shot on the simplest way to do it first, the tried and true, the simplest, easiest way. Only when that wouldn't work would you go up to the next level. And when that wouldn't work, you go to the next level. So our film does everything from the highest tech, digitally animated, digitally composite CGI shot to little models on wires in front of photo backings, and everything in between.
The first thing I felt like was the most necessary to do is actually think about the alien world, because that was the only thing that was completely new, actually. The alien world, there's nothing you can really potentially start from, and definitely not start from other people's work. You try to avoid that and not get stuck in somebody else's style. So usually when I do alien stuff, any alien material, I try to just start from scratch, let myself go.
Patrick kind of is a person who is very, very into organic forms. And I think that was his big contribution to this film, you know, to kind of like keep in a way this like alien culture in an organic form, like believable, and doesn't become too alien to us, you know, and he's very good at that.
We've done tons of designs, and Roland came and picked some that he liked. And the first thing was that's the one he liked for the mothership. He just really liked the look of it, felt like they had a great power to it. The size of the craft relate to the amount of alien coming, and basically all their world is moving together. That's why this thing had to be so big. The simpler the shape, the more massive the element looks like. And actually working through those designs, I started to really realize that actually the simple shape makes the thing look much more massive. And that's, at that point, our direction were toward that thing, thinking, okay, simple, elegant, and massive. The dome thing came very instinctively. We didn't really think about it, just it looked elegant. You had those huge giant pods, which I think make this shape work together nicely. The pod is something we couldn't do on a destroyer, for example, that hovering the city, because the pod would allow to have the craft sitting close enough to the city. And so we had to get away without that on the destroyer. So we went actually kind of crazy on the mothership, having those huge, gigantic pods.
We wanted to tap into pre-existing mythology about UFOs, because people somehow have an idea of what an alien might look like, or what a spaceship looks like, or what that, you know, all these things would be. So what we try to do is show you that and then take it a step beyond it. Have it look familiar, and then as you see it closer, say it's one step farther. It's wilder than I had imagined.
The original concept for the Attacker was to make this thing about 100 feet wide. The stage didn't allow us to do that. So we shrunk the craft to what we felt could be the maximum size it could have in there and still potentially fly off that set. But the Attacker was actually 65 feet wide, which was like a potential full-size Attacker. That's the way this thing was supposed to be. In a sense, makes it the smallest alien thing we see in the movie is actually the Attacker, and still it's a pretty gigantic thing. I mean, 65 feet wide. Because this thing had to be a practical set as well, I mean, the Attacker had to be practical. People were supposed to walk on it. People were supposed to stand into the cockpit, and we had to shoot inside the cockpit itself. Meant this whole thing had to be a very heavy structure in itself. It wasn't like a traditional set where you usually use wood and plywood and you had to put it together. In this case, it was just a full, metal structure for the craft.
After I read the script and we did a breakdown of the miniatures, there's like more miniatures in this movie than probably any two movies combined. It was overwhelming because there's cities to build, there's alien craft, alien creatures, just about everything you could do in miniatures. We have motion control. We have a model maker down there that runs the electronics and everything for the ship. And then on the other stage, 35, which is our pyro stage, we have two guys setting up for our LA street scene.
Pretty much every effect person we talked to said, be prepared for a $150,000 shot. And we said, well, why is it so difficult to do? And they said, well, because not only do you have to shoot the street and shoot all the elements of the street that happen, but you'll have to digitally create the fire that rolls down the street and then digitally composite that into your shot. And that's going to be very expensive to make that look real. And Roland said, well, why can't we just do that all in camera? And everyone said, well, it'll look fake, it'll never work. And Roland said, I think I could do that in camera. So Roland came up with this idea that we build the street on a large platform, make it 1/24 side, enormous buildings, then take the entire platform and stand it on its end.
Our miniature, it's 24 scale, it's about 8 feet wide, 20 feet long, and it's going to be a street where we're going to show the wave of destruction coming up the street.
Always fire also wants to go up, especially like when you do it in a miniature way. You know, we wanted that the fire comes right at you, so the street had to become pretty much a chimney for the fire.
And it's hanging on a scaffolding at about a 10-degree angle. So when we have our destruction and our fire and everything start here, it will run up the street as it eats up the fuel. And our camera will be mounted about 5 feet off the set at the top. And I think in what we're doing, miniatures work best. I mean, there's a lot of explosions, a lot of pyro, a lot of fire, a lot of stuff that even today with the sophisticated computers is still tricky to do.
When you blow up a big model, there's nothing better than that. You can't create this like with CGI yet.
And action!
So like the bigger explosion stuff, all the fire elements are real fire elements. You know, we composite them later like in the computer.
One of our showcase pieces is going to be the White House, and we're building that at 12 scale, which is over 14 feet wide, and we're going to blow it up.
I think, you know, the best White House model ever. We put a lot of thinking into that. We built it not like out of wood, we built it out of plaster. Everything was a mold. So every piece, you know, was like kind of like created first in wood and then made a silicone mold out of it, and then little plaster pieces, and then it was built like the White House was built out of single pieces.
The White House has got such great detail in it that even in the most preliminary test that we've done, that the White House holds up in an extreme close-up. So all of a sudden this particular miniature is very near and dear to our hearts because it's got such wonderful detail. I don't know if I really want to blow it up or not.
With miniature pyrotechniques, there's a great many variables that go into the completion and the successful blowing of a model like this. One has to consider what the model is made out of, in this case plaster. You have to know the scale, you have to know the size of the charges that you're using, how much gas, what the camera speeds are. So there's a great variety of things that have to be considered when blowing up a model like this.
When the actual explosion takes place, it's over in a second. But we are doing this 300 frames per second thing instead of the normal 24, which means we're slowing it down 12 times. So the whole thing looks 12 times slower in the end.
And we blew the sucker up with 9 cameras shooting it at various speeds, and then we digitally composited that into our shot from Washington.
Hey! And action!
Well, there you go. It's everything that I expected it to be. And everything went off. We didn't have any problems with that. And this is what's left of it.
I think old-fashioned effects, you know, will never die out because they're simply too good. We sometimes make a combination of like model, motion control, you know, photographed models for the foreground and then like go like digital CGI in the background.
We have the model mounted on a 3-axis gimbal, which controls basically the ship's attitude in space, which way it's pointing. And then the actual forward, any motion is created by the camera, and that's all running under motion control off the computer here. The motion control system is basically a very sophisticated and high precision motion tape recorder, editor. You'll write a move for a spaceship, and once the move is done and approved by everybody, then you can play back that move with extreme precision as many times as you like. The computer graphics people need to know exactly, for them to have their computer environment move and have all the perspectives match up with the model that was shot photographically on stage. The computer graphics guy's computer has to know exactly how the camera on the stage moved. It has to be a very precise recreation of the motion that occurred on the stage. So the computer allows us to record all that motion, export it on a disk to the computer graphics people, and they can plug that in and use that to match up their background to our model foregrounds.
I did 2 concepts for the alien. I did one that was this tall alien fantasy, let's say, not the way people picture an alien to look like, a real alien. And the other direction was doing something more in the tradition of what people think an alien should look like, which is this little being with a bigger head because the brain is big and they're very clever people, bigger eyes. That was the two direction. And still giving it kind of a surrealistic look about, having just two fingers and maybe not being able to propel itself on the ground, just to make it a little bit more, less human, if I would say. Those two designs were on the wall, and Ron came upstairs and looked at it and decided, looked at it for a little while, he said, I love that, but I like this too. What am I going to do? And actually, he did come up with the idea of using both alien.
Because on the one hand, I kind of wanted to kind of follow the mythology, which like people think, like aliens look, and there's a certain kind of image everybody's constantly drawing, and I wanted to stick with that. But on the other hand, I thought it's like terribly boring. So what we did, we kind of created first like an image of the alien which you think it's not like what you think they look like, to later then discover, in a surprise, that they exactly look like we think they should look like.
Technically speaking, the small alien is our real alien. The other one is actually another alien. It's a potential creature, living creature as well, that those small aliens use to travel through space. Those aliens live on a planet where other creatures live around. They take those big, dumb aliens, but very powerful, they treat them, have their face split open and just fit in there and travel space this way. So they actually become strong creatures, physically strong. They're actually very clever beings, but they need to be physically strong to travel space. So that's the full-size alien, that's the big alien, which is actually, as we know now, the suit. It's a quarter-scale replica of the full-size alien we've built for the show. What you do, you make an armature in there with the alien. It's all articulated. The joints are all articulated, and you put armatures on some of them, and then you have like rods coming out. You got about 4 or 5 guys moving every part of the creature around. Later on, they're going to be removing those rods out of the scene. It's like a blue screen technique, pretty much. What you can get, you can make this thing look like it's running full speed on a screen, and you get much more life to it. And still, at this date, I think CGI doesn't convince me as much as the rod control puppet do. So I think maybe in the future we'll be able to do that with CGI. So far, it hasn't been convincing enough, so we still try to do it that way. I use the guy in the suit for a lot of our scenes, where the guy actually, you see just the upper body of the creature with the arms. You really have a guy in there, plus mechanical hands, mechanical face, but you could potentially have someone. But then you show the legs on their own, then you cut with the body again. I guess that's at that point when the magic of editing and directing and those things all work together. You end up thinking that, how did they do that? So those legs have been built like the rest of the creature as separate elements, because sometimes I need some type of legs, sometimes I need another type of legs. I mean by that, some legs need to be articulated with armature wire in there, so I can put them in a specific position. But then the upper torso needs to be the hero one. Another time I need to have like just a mechanical leg like this that actually move up and down for different scenes. So what I wanted to do is being able to change not the full creature every time, and that's also for a budget reason, not to build like 50 creatures, maybe 3 of them with a different group of, members, like the arms, the legs separately. We got some pretty convincing shots of those legs coming in the shot. When you see the guy screaming in front of it, and suddenly you see those 2 legs jumping in frame. And those came out actually really good. Those are probably some of my favorite shots. This is a typical stunt arm we've used. The quality of the paint job is as good as the hero arms. The difference is only in the fact that those guys are positionable. You put the position you want before the scene, actually. And the actor splits his arm inside there. The actual hand of the actor reached that point. After that, it's all either, when I use mechanical arm, full mechanical arm with cable control, or in a case like this one, in the stunt one, just a wire armature to put this thing in a position I'd like to see it in. So this is the same concept on the other hand. It's actually painted exactly the same way, except it's our hero hand, which is the actor puts his arm inside that socket, basically, and his finger hands up here. From that point on, I've got a mechanical hand with full of cable running all the way up to the outside. And all that stuff is done by puppeteers. So what the actor has to do is actually mostly moving his forearm, and the hand motion is done by puppeteers outside the scene, actually. This is the way the creature looks, actually, when it's put together. So you see it all together right now, in a closed position with the face closed. Abdomen, joint, and then you got pelvis and all the legs. The first time the alien appears in the movie, he looks like this, the face. As you see here, you got in the design of the creature a big split in line here that goes all the way up to the throat inside here. The doctor are trying to play with it, and at that point the thing opens. One head just opens, the other one, it's an open head already that the Okun can walk in and start lifting the skins. That's another head. Then you got a third head for the revealing of the alien inside. Then you got a fourth head, which is a head where the small alien pops out. For example, when the alien is lying on this operating table and the face opens, for a process like that, that looks like, I'd say, 30 seconds in the movie, we had to build 4 heads just for that process. This alien you're seeing here inside the head of the big suit is actually the one we use for the coming out of the creature. This head was actually lying on an operating table. I had 2 puppeteers underneath this operating table, and basically push the alien from the inside out, have the arms coming out first, and that alien was built just for that specific scene. In the scene in the laboratory, the only reason this thing can actually walk around, and that's another reason why you can combine designs, is the lab was designed in such a way we have a lot of pipes on the ceiling, which allow the creature to actually grab pipes and walk around holding itself. That's an interesting point of showing how we can actually work out the sets at the same time you work the creature, and everything is actually end up being the same kind of concept. You know, he has to work really tightly together. So this is actually a final hero alien. That's the one that lives in the suit. That's the one that does all the motion. What you're seeing here is all the harness. One puppeteer was wearing the full harness to move the arms. Guys were working on the fingers from here, working on the head from there. So this is about a 7 puppeteer deal for just this guy. All the plates inside were moving. A lot of lights, different points in there, plates moving up and down. The arms are all mechanical, so they wrap back in, fingers moving forward, backward. This one got shot in the head twice for a hero shot when the guy gets killed. We were supposed to use a stunt one for that, but we ended up shooting so close that we wanted to show one moving and then dying slowly. This has been built just for an insert shot only of the eyelid of the creature opening when he wakes up inside the suit. And what Ron, the director, wanted to do is actually being able to see in the eyes the reflection of the actor. This could have been done as a post-production thing, as an insert, but actually Ron really wanted to use it on the set, actually, because he could get the real reflection, didn't have to like match up things on post, and there's so much post-production happening on this movie already, I don't think we want to add anything else. What you're seeing here is like 2 of the remaining aliens that you actually see in the movie in the containers, in the tanks. Those are, in the story of the movie, the 3 aliens they found years ago, you know, like the Roswell experiment story. We tried to make them look pretty trash from the beginning, so they looked like they went through a crash. The first approach was to do a dry tank, imitation of water. It did look okay, I'd say. Ron Emmerich looked at it and said, no way, we have to put water in there. Suddenly we had to change the thickness of the tank, get some new tanks overnight, put them up there, fill them up with water, and put those creatures in there. The water always helps to make them look bigger, distort them, and they look twice as realistic as they would look.
Digital effects. I think a real generic way of explaining it is most people consider anything that involves a computer. And there's really 2 distinct fields. One is compositing. The other aspect of computer work is CGI, computer-generated imagery. The difference between the 2 is compositing, again, you're putting the elements together, and CGI, you're actually generating elements. The same way if you were shooting an element, you're actually creating something that didn't exist before.
A wireframe is our representation of a solid object. And how you get there basically are points in space, and that can be done either by an animator taking a point in space and saying this is connecting the dots basically, and creating something that has a mass and has a solid volume to it. Once we've created the wireframe, then we have to have a certain point of view on that wireframe, and that changes for every shot. The beauty of the wireframe is once it's built, we can use it for any shot. You can put the F-18 flying straight towards you, and we in the computer have what's basically a virtual camera, and you can put the camera in the front of this 3D object and it looks like it's flying towards you. If you want to go to the side, you can move it to the side and you get the wings and you can show the rotation, and just off of the 3D object and this virtual camera that's used in computer graphics. Texture mapping is the next step. Once you've got your wireframe, which is your 3D representation to connect the dots, you then need to take a real surface and basically paint it over top of this texture.
Usually computer-generated images look synthetic.
Therefore, you want to get some dirt, some natural images in there. And the easiest thing is to actually take pictures of dust and dirt.
We photographed, you know, like a real F-18 on a tarmac, and in every, like, down to every screw, and, you know, and texture mapped it on a wireframe. I think, you know, like, we went a big step there. You know, it looks really good.
On this show, we had several sets of challenges. One of the biggest ones was the dogfight scenes. We're animating hundreds of airplanes in the air at the same time. And to do that plane by plane is just a really painstaking process. It takes a really long time, because you have to do not only each F-18 or each attacker, but then each attacker shoots the attacker firing, and each F-18 fires missiles and tracers, and there's hundreds and hundreds of objects to keep track of. And then even some of the objects that are like the F-18's missile fire, they emit fire and smoke as well, so you've got literally thousands of things to keep track of in the scene. Since we're doing this all with computers are really good at doing that, good at simulating all those things, so we've written programs which do nothing but simulate the dogfight scenes in a way that we have a lot of control over them.
You will see in this movie scenes where 150 F-18 American jets will be fighting over 250 alien attackers in the most spectacular aerial sequence ever filmed. Now, this wouldn't have been possible without digital technology, without computers.
The solution before we were brought onto the show was to hand animate all of this. So it's just as if you were to do it with motion control, do it with some traditional methods. You have to actually hand animate each F-18 or each attacker. And then they were doing things like copying some different paths and whatnot. But it was still basically a ton of hand animation. It would take several days to set up one shot and then render it, and then several days to do another shot. So we were able to take it from about a 4 or 5 day turnaround per dogfight and bring it down where we can basically produce 2 dogfights in one 24-hour period.
I've never seen CG, computer-generated imagery, come out as fast as on this show. I mean, Roland can call in and fax us over a storyboard at 9 o'clock at night and have an animatic and have animation by the next morning. And normally that would take a week to 2 weeks, you know, on normal pace.
Because there's a limited amount of horsepower in the computer, even though these are really fast computers, we have to use primitives, or these little dots, to represent each of the airplanes at first. You can see it's only stepping a few frames per second. It's only stepping very slowly through the dogfight, and that's so we can tweak each of the individual parameters as it's stepping through. And I can go through and adjust sliders or grab my equations and make adjustments to my equations in real time and see how that affects the dogfight. And then as soon as I get the motion the way I want it, as soon as I get the numbers the way that we want it for a particular shot, then I can go in and substitute the real airplanes for these dots.
One shot alone, which is 21 CG planes, 2 motion control planes, and they're all firing 2 missiles except the president's plane, which is firing 1 missile. So all of that, and the shot just kept expanding and expanding. And eventually when we finally went to go back up the shot and get it laid off back to a backup format DST, we found out that the shot had totaled 52.5 gigabytes for that 1 6-second shot.
One of the beauties of compositing is that rather than trying to do everything in camera, trying to do everything live, where you would have to have a model, you'd have to have a spaceship to scale, you'd have to have pyro, and all of that happening at the same time, by compositing in layers, it allows us to choreograph each layer perfectly and then put them together.
What really helps the director and the filmmakers is that what it really is offering when everything is evaluated is flexibility. So if somebody's shooting model miniatures of an F-18, let's say, once that's shot, the lighting, everything as the way it was shot, you're locked into it. So that by the time you go to put that element together, way down the line, 6 months later, after you've shot it, and all of a sudden the director says, oh, guess what, I've changed my mind, this isn't a day scene, it's now a night scene, and you want to change lighting or you want to change the nuances of that element, it's extremely difficult because you're locked into certain parameters. Where with computer-generated imagery, you have control of the lighting, you have control of it just the way you would in a shooting environment, and that you always have control of changing those things based upon what the director now wants to do with it. So flexibility is really what digital has to offer the filmmakers.
When we build a composite in this particular software, we usually work from the back to the front. In this particular composite I have here, the very back element was the destroyer itself. Another element that we added to this composite was the CG, or computer graphic, beam and particles. And I took these 2 elements and added them on top of the destroyer before I added the White House. So this was like an intermediate layer. And we wanted to give the impression that this beam was coming down and striking the White House and exploding it. We have the destroyer in the background, which started out as a model. We have the lights, which were shot as a separate piece, and we've added those together. We have the beam coming down with the particles timed right, so it hits right. And then we had the nice edge here where the pyro comes up. It's nice and soft, and you pick up all the debris that's in the original element to give you a convincing composite that we're actually blowing up the White House.
The buildings that you're going to see in this particular shot are very, very small. They're about 3 feet tall, where the people are, real people, and they're shot real time. So we have to have a way to find, to put all those elements together, and the way to do it is digital compositing.
A lot of debris had to be put into the pyro elements because that's not in the explosion. The explosion is a clean explosion, and then we have to put in, as a separate element, things like glass shattering and plaster exploding, all of those things so that you could get physical debris, then need to be mixed into the pyro. Another thing were the large model miniatures that exploded. We had to composite into a lot of those shots, which are model miniatures with the pyro in it, the destroyer itself, the destruction beam, an atmospheric haze, people running towards camera, 3 or 4 layers of different cars, foreground, midground, background, anything that billboards, signs, flags, anything that we had shot as separate model pieces that needed to fly towards camera. One thing Roland really wanted to do was have large objects, white frame, that would help him transition from shot to shot in the destruction sequence.
We shot over 6,000 elements to make up over 400 visual effect shots. Now, to give perspective on that, our last film, Stargate, which is thought of as a effects-heavy movie, had roughly 260 visual effect shots. So this is over 140 shots more. And in those shots, we had an average of about 3 elements per shot, and here we're averaging 10 to 15 elements per shot. So it's quite expansive as far as what we're doing, quite ambitious.
This is the World News Network with Barry Nolan.
Good evening. On this most historic day, and in case you've just tuned in, brace yourself. You are looking at live coverage as several alien spacecraft, I repeat, alien spacecraft, are hovering above major world cities, including Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles, Moscow, Paris, and London. Throughout the day, we've been watching in a kind of horrified wonder as the craft first began appearing around the globe. Although there have been no communications from the visitors, Washington officials are quick to assure us that there is presently no reason for fear or panic. Here's Brett Lewis at the White House with the latest. Brett?
Thanks, Barry. A hastily called news conference broke up moments ago. White House Communications Director Constance Spano spoke to the public's growing concern.
Good afternoon. So far, the phenomenon has not caused any damage. In all likelihood, it will not. It's very important that everyone try to remain calm and not panic. The EBS has been activated, so should the situation escalate, you will be instructed on what to do.
General Gray of the U.S. Space Command followed with a brief statement addressing what is really on everybody's mind.
We have placed the military under yellow alert. We want to assure all Americans the military is fully prepared for any contingency. And we are proceeding in a cautious and responsible manner.
General Gray then left the podium without taking any questions. That's all the information we have at this time. But if I could interject a little personal observation, things around the White House are looking very tense, to say the least. Barry, back to you.
Thanks, Brett. It is probably safe to assume that the tension is being felt around the globe, tension that began earlier today when we first received bizarre reports of fire raging in the skies over Russia.
Igor, can you hear me? This unexplained disturbance and the hysteria that it's causing are incredible. How would you describe what you are seeing? It is clearing the mountains. Sightings have been reported here in Novosibirsk, Russia, and other parts of Siberia. Moving too slowly to be a comet or meteor, astronomers are baffled as to its origin.
Certainly, we are baffled no more. Scientists now confirm those firestorms were the exhaust of alien craft entering our atmosphere. Jerry Dunphy is live at the Pentagon with the latest information on yet more UFO sightings. Jerry?
Seems there are additional unconfirmed sightings now over Japan, the Mediterranean, and China. What you see on your screen right now is a map indicating the locations of spacecraft around the world. Red indicates confirmed sightings. Yellow signifies unconfirmed sightings or firestorms, which we now recognize as the arrival of a new ship.
Looking live again at the spacecraft, you can see that the size of these ships is really quite remarkable. It is reported that each craft is over 15 miles in diameter and casts a shadow so immense it can literally throw an entire city into darkness. Officials continue to assure us that there is presently no cause for panic, but throughout much of the country, panic has been the order of the day. Earlier today, Ernie Anastas filed this report from New York as thousands took to the streets in a desperate attempt to escape.
All right, this is New York City. This is incredible. New York City hasn't experienced this kind of panic situation since the blackout in 1968. Stay here. 1968. Look. This is impenetrable. Massive gridlock. Nobody is moving. And all of these people are just trying to get out of the city as fast as they can. Turn the camera around. Look at these people. They've packed their cars. They're throwing up on top of the trucks. They're trying to keep their families together. Look over here. There are people up here. If you look at that building, they are throwing things out the window, down to the street, trying to get them into their cars so they can get out of the city as fast as they can.
And now from Washington, Colin Barkley brings us more on the public reaction. Colin?
I'm here in Hyattsville, Maryland, but the scene you were witnessing is recurring all around the country as people scramble to get out from underneath the shadow of the spaceships that are blotting out the sun. Even in rural areas, they are suffering tremendous traffic jams as people are trying to reach friends and family around the country.
I just have a bad feeling about this. My wife's in Indianapolis. She's pregnant. I just want to go be with my wife.
If they're friendly, we can come back, right?
Interesting story. This young couple you see on the videotape decided they couldn't make it to the church on time, so they got married right here in the fast lane. Now, if you're watching this at home, highway officials have asked that you stay at home until the congestion has died down. If you really must get on the road, I recommend you bring along sensible shoes.
From panic and gridlock in the east to quite a different reaction in the west. In Los Angeles, there's near jubilation as residents have taken to the rooftops in celebration of our alien visitors. Wendy Walsh in Los Angeles, just what is going on there?
Well, it's not the stairway to heaven, but it'll just have to do for now. Below us, we can see hundreds of UFO fanatics who have gathered on rooftops here in downtown Los Angeles to welcome the new arrivals. These signs are amazing, as you can see from the tape. We asked a few people what they were hoping to see tonight.
Oh, God, I hope they bring back Elvis!
In 1978, this dropped out of the sky and hit me, on top of my head. Well, I'm hoping to get them.
Sorry, Wendy, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut your report short because we are just now receiving breaking news from the Pentagon that the Air Force is, in fact, about to make an effort to contact the aliens. Our Monica Soloway is standing by at Andrews Air Force Base with more details on what is being dubbed Operation Welcome Wagon. Monica.
General Van Horn and his men have been working under crisis conditions, scrambling to get the equipment needed to make this mission possible. Now, in light of our apparent inability to communicate with our visitors, Pentagon officials have retrofit this Skylift helicopter with a type of visual communications device, which they hope will be the first step in communicating with the alien craft. Now, this is not a military aircraft. This comes from the Forest Service, and it is normally used to carry tons of water to fire situations. But as you can see from this tape made earlier today, it has been loaded up with a powerful generator and refitted with these enormous light panels that are attached to the hull and onto the sides.
You are watching live continuing coverage of Operation Welcome Wagon, the first physical attempt to communicate with the alien visitors.
Now, it's a little hard to see here from the ground, but this night vision view is showing us the mission in progress. Any second now, you should see the Skylift helicopter turn on. There they are, 64 powerful lights on either side of the Skylift helicopter have just begun to flash humanity's first visual message to our visitors.
Something's opening.
Something is happening. A bright light is now coming from the craft. We can see it from here.
We're feeling it pretty bad up here. Something's pushing on us. Aboard! 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 Come on! Can you stop?
Mission time marker 01210.
Everything's fading
We'll get back to Monica Soloway live at Andrews Air Force Base just as soon as we can. Brett Lewis at the White House. Brett, we can hear you, but we seem to be having some trouble with our video feed. Brett, what's the latest there?
The president has ordered the immediate evacuation of the entire city. Not being told why. Only there's been some type of dramatic change in the current situation. I'm being told we've got to leave as well. I'll try to keep you up to date as much as possible.
What is that? What's happening? What's happening? Spaceships over Russia, New York, Washington, D.C. One could only imagine what would happen if they were real. And that's just the question raised in the special effects-filled summer movie Independence Day. Through the monumental efforts of filmmakers Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, we're given a fascinating look at what just might happen when and if that day arrives. So join us now for an insider's look at Independence Day, the day we fight back.
We estimate that it has a diameter of over 550 kilometers and a mass roughly 1/4 the size of our moon.
The world gets the message on July 2nd. They discover pretty quickly that it's not benign and that, in fact, the whole world's at stake.
They should be entering our atmosphere within the next 25 minutes.
And then it releases 15-mile-wide ships that hover over all of the major cities around the world.
Earthquake!
This is a big emergency crisis situation, like a building on fire, or except times 10 billion.
Mr. President, alien ships continue to arrive, 15 in total so far.
We have to ask you to try to stay calm, and it's important for everyone not to panic.
Suddenly everybody's signals get scrambled all over Washington and all over the world.
More ships have just arrived over the capitals of India, England, and Germany.
They slowly get more and more information, and a signal is revealed through David. Does it? Jeff does it. He figures out what this computer signal is.
They're positioning themselves all over the world. And then what? Checkmate.
Echo 1, welcome wagon is in the air. Repeat, welcome wagon is in the air.
I'm the one who discovers about when they're going to attack.
They're using our own satellites against us. And the clock is ticking.
Get those helicopters away from the ship.
They're responding.
We are evacuating. I repeat, we are evacuating the White House.
We've got to stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
Time's up.
The plan is to rub everybody out by July 4th.
They're not good guys, they're not bad guys, they don't like us, they don't hate us. They're simply the new tenants, and we're the cockroaches, and they want the bugs cleaned out.
And action!
You scared, man?
No. Something you want to add to this briefing, Captain Hiller?
No, sir. Just a little anxious to get up there and whoop E.T.'s ass, that's all.
We have to mobilize, and as President of the United States, I got a big job. Big job.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Bringing Independence Day to the movie screen was no easy task. In fact, it was one of the largest productions Hollywood has ever mounted. Let's take a quick look behind the scenes and see where these aliens really came from.
We had great exterior locations. We shot on the Bonneville Salt Flats for these spectacular views where we had 170 trailers racing across the desert to these enormous sets that we built here at the Hughes Aircraft.
Kick the tires and light the fires.
Whenever you try to do a film that involves the military, you try and get military support, especially if the military is portrayed in a favorable light, as they are in our film. They actually helped us in making it more realistic. And once we'd kind of revised the script to a point we felt it was realistic and working, we went back and they said, great, we love it, we're all set to join you, but one little thing, can you remove any reference to Area 51? And of course, we couldn't, because we wanted to tap into pre-existing mythology about UFOs, so you can't do that without mentioning Area 51. And so because of that, they declined to support the film.
President?
Roland really has pulled together a very fine group of actors for this piece. It's a top draw cast.
I think we kind of tried in the whole movie, like for every little part, you know, to find the perfect actor for it and try to make the whole cast very balanced. Every character's equally important.
They're not all that dissimilar from us.
Hey, you guys want to see him?
What are these 15-mile-long spaceships that hover over cities and create a shadow? This is unbelievable to me. There's something about that that is so exciting. Part of me just said, I have to be in this because I have to find out how they will do this.
Oh, nice. I think when you do a special effect movie these days, you have to go to the limits of what technology can do, and you have to create sequences that people haven't seen.
We've shot over 6,000 elements to make up over 400 visual effect shots.
You have this massive cast and thrills, chills, spills. This is a classic, big-budget Hollywood picture, you know, and it just feels great to be a part of it.
It really is a thrilling script. There's all of these little stories going on that kind of meet up in a wonderful way at the end.
It's a feel good about America type of movie. Makes you believe in land of the free, home of the brave.
I think lovely and inspiring a story about how people can come together and join their efforts for a common and grand and noble purpose.
That's what I call a close encounter.
Hollywood fiction? Maybe. But if not, are we prepared to deal with visitors from another world? So, could extraterrestrials really arrive here on Earth? And what would happen if they did? Would our leaders, and if necessary, our military, be ready and able to communicate with alien elements or defend us from them? That's what we set out to answer. We brought together some of the world's foremost experts on the subject and asked them, point blank, are we prepared? Could we fight back?
I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all?
I think Ronald Reagan and every president before or since probably knows a lot more than we do. The real question is, what more do they know?
My concern is this. It may be that the government is withholding the information because they're being compelled to withhold the information. Perhaps the aliens themselves, if they are here, are the architects of the secrecy.
In video footage shot live from the shuttle mission STS-48, there is an apparent maneuver of several different small objects seen near the horizon of the planet Earth, which appear to not be ordinary space junk, space objects, ice from the shuttle and so forth.
It appears that this object, whatever it is, at some distance from the shuttle, actually goes through the atmosphere area and then shoots out away from the atmosphere, away from Earth, makes a 90-degree turn. And that is very puzzling, to put it mildly.
It's very probable that the objects are large, far away, and traveling very, very fast. That, of course, raises the question, whose are they and who's on board?
There are two possibilities. One, that we are the only inhabited planet, and two, that we are not the only inhabited planet. And either idea is fantastic.
I think that for us to say that, to even to be skeptical about whether there's another life form somewhere out there is breathtakingly arrogant.
The Hubble Space Telescope recently was focused on a small area of sky. Within that grain of sand piece of sky was 1,500 galaxies.
That means that there are literally tens of billions of stars for every human being on Earth. The universe must be teeming with life. Teeming with life. All kinds of life, all kinds of thought, all kinds of motives.
It is possible that at some foreseeable time, there could be an arrival of large numbers of entities from elsewhere here on planet Earth.
I think we do have a legitimate concern about possibility of an alien invasion.
If they can get here from another star, that means that their technology is more than likely well in advance of what we presently would have capable to repel them.
If there were a hostile civilization out there that really wanted to invade us in a military sense, we wouldn't have a ghost of a chance.
Well, I believe the Star Wars technology is a very good basis to work from to protect ourselves. It could be used out into space just as simply as it could have been to protect us here on Earth.
It's my impression that even that sort of technology would not be sufficient to defend against whatever threat there may be.
If these creatures coming from outer space are armed with weapons unknown to humans, all these anti-ballistic missiles may be of no use. We do not know what they possess.
My opinion is that it probably would not be an overt, straightforward military weaponry attack. It would combine subtle elements of psychic influence.
If I were they, I would not want to generate a whole lot of hostility on our part either, because for all our faults and all our weaknesses as a race, as a human race, we do tend to band together in the clutch and present a pretty formidable adversary.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish. We're going to survive.
In order to prepare for what may or may not be an invasion, I think the best way we could do it is just get everything out in the open.
We're floating in physical evidence. This is no secret. It's no question. It's time to get it out of the UFO community and into the scientific community, and for the general public to realize it's real. They're here now. It's time to wake up.
There you have it. Answers as well as questions. See where the exciting possibilities lie in the thrilling film Independence Day and make up your own mind. And in the meantime, whatever you do, don't look up.